Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, baby metal fan, and we finally have the new album, Metal Fourth, which it came out a couple of months delayed. If we'd waited much longer, I think they would have had to call it Metal Fifth. But we have it, and there are, I think, 5 new songs that we hadn't officially heard before. And one of those is My Queen, a collaboration with Canadian metal band Spiritbox, and we have a new official music video for that. So I'm going to talk about that today. Before I get into it, let me say, my focus here is always trying to unpack meaning, try to sort of figure out what's going on. And that's based primarily on lyrics, on music, on video when we have it, visuals and choreography, some stuff from interviews and that kind of stuff. But my interest is to try and build a sense of what the song is about. If that's not what you're interested in, you are in the wrong place. Because I keep getting comments saying, it's just a metal song, doesn't mean anything. I'm like, it doesn't mean anything? I don't understand. I don't understand that. How can it not mean something? Do people who think these songs don't mean anything feel the same way when they're listening to music in their own language? Anyway, let's get into it. My Queen. Okay, before we get into the lyric, let's pause for a second to acknowledge some of the sound and visuals. We start off with that really heavy, static-y background, and then we get a moment of silence, and bang, it comes in. And there's this driving, hard, instrumental heaviness that I think really anchors the song and gives it real impact. This is a 3.5-minute song, so actually a little bit less. So it's got to do quite a lot of stuff fairly fast and hard, and it's very direct. There's not a lot of build-up, not a lot of ephemeral instrumental work or solos or lead-in or any of that kind of stuff. It's direct and to the point. And we immediately get Baby Metal, of course, in their modified new uniforms. And the setting is the chessboard, which immediately, of course, makes sense in the sense of the title of the song being My Queen. Queen, of course, being the most powerful, most flexible chess piece on the board. I was wondering about this in terms of Japanese chess. There's a Japanese, sometimes called Japanese chess, shogi, which has similar kinds of pieces, but no queen, interestingly enough. So whether that's relevant or not, I don't know. But we're using this chessboard. And of course, this is a common feature of referencing battle of some kind. And we have 2 apparent adversaries here. One, we have the sort of creepy, glowy-eyed guy in the background, who, I don't know how you would describe him. There's a sort of cowled, evil, wizardy kind of character. Sort of it looks like he stepped out of Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time or something along those lines. And then we have the figure in white, who is Courtney LaPlante of Spiritbox, who's set up as the adversary. So we have black versus white because that's the nature of chess. But we also have this additional figure lurking in the background and watching. The focus is on the eyes. Wow. I love that low, incremental, sort of chromatic, moving by semitones. The vocal line that we get here. And let's take a look at the lyrics. As ever, I am reliant here on Capable Paramedic, who does these great translations, working in part also with Stephen Chen on some of the interviews and things like that. But I believe Capable Paramedic is primarily responsible for the translations of the song. As I say, I'm using Capable Paramedic's translation. He puts it as: a shadow creeps, melting into the darkness of this night, appears to me, then to you, comes back in another guise, even after it vanishes, as if to say, will you dance? Now, that's the second line. Boku no moto, kimi no moto nimo, appears to me and then to you. We have pronouns, a baby metal song that actually has pronouns, that helps us to figure out who is talking and who they're talking to and how many people are in the song. So this should make everything crystal clear. It doesn't, but it helps. So we have, to begin at least, two distinct characters, a me and a you. Boku, kimi. But we also have this sort of shadowy presence, possibly represented by the evil wizardy kind of guy, which it might not be an actual person, it might not be a character, it might be a feeling. It's a sort of negative, dark energy that is creeping around, and there's this sort of sense of malevolence or badness or a problem of some kind. It comes to me, and then it comes to you, but it leaves us with this: will you dance? Ororimasen ka? Ororimasen ka? So it's a negative construction, but it means will you dance? Or are we going to dance or what? And I think in the context of the way that the black and the white are squaring up to each other on the chessboard in that sort of personified way, which is, you know, reminiscent of something like the wizard chess match in the first Harry Potter novel and movie. There's the sense that where the chess match is going to be an actual sort of literal battle between people, and that's the dance, right? So some dark force appears to me, and then to you, and then it says, like, we going to dance or what? And then and that's where the game begins. The game itself is a little unclear because it's hard to tell which pieces are white and which pieces are black, but we see them immediately sort of taking each other. I just want to say before I get into the lyric there, I love the crisp dynamism of this choreography. At times, at the very beginning, it seems like it's a little muddy. They don't seem to be perfectly synchronized, but then we hit this really sharp part here, which is much faster, much more precise, and they're absolutely in sync. And, you know, it's actually quite impressive. I think that sometimes the sort of heavy gesture-driven choreography of baby metal doesn't show whether or not they can really dance. And I think a moment like this does, because it's really crisp and precise and tight. So it's good. Yoen, dazzling. Hane, eternity. Koko, my queen. Kono kurushimi kara toki hanatte. So Capable Paramedic's translation: oh, my queen who bewitches dazzlingly, prospers in eternity and is proudly aloof, set me free from this suffering. So the queen being evoked here. So this is potentially at least character number 4, who seems to be outside the main players that we're invoking here. And Yoen is as Capable Paramedic says, fascinating, voluptuous, bewitching, captivating. And so this powerful, engaging, magical presence who's being spoken to, who's being beseeched by the speaker of the song, and this magical queen is an eternal of some sort, right? So it starts to feel goddess-like. And I think that's not inappropriate. Now, there are things, I'm going to come back to the idea that this is all very internal as a possible reading, because, despite the fact that there is some clarity in this song, more so than in something like Distortion, which I think is one of the obvious antecedents for My Queen, right? Distortion has the same kind of feel. It also uses a separate female vocalist who uses the death metal growl and sets up this sort of epic battle and has similarly inconclusive meanings. But I think here we get something a little bit different, where the sense of the queen who as a goddess figure. Baby metal have often invoked female religious figures, right? Think back to those early concerts with the huge Virgin Mary statue on stage behind as a kind of image of female supernatural power. Benevolent supernatural power, right? It's not just kick-ass girl power stuff, but specifically associated with kindness and generosity and the capacity to set me free from this suffering. That's very Virgin Mary, right? If you know anything about Catholicism, particularly, the association of Mary being the person to whom you appeal to redeem you from your sins. You can't, in the old Catholic system, you don't go to Jesus or God or the Holy Spirit because they're too remote. The purpose of saints and angels and such is to be intermediaries on your sinful behalf, right? To appeal to God on your behalf. I'm not saying this is supposed to be the Virgin Mary. I'm saying that it's part of the iconography of female goddess or supernatural power. And I think, the Buddhist equivalent would be somebody like Kannon, right? Though I think if we're talking about baby metal and female goddess power, we might also include Inari, who is associated with the kitsune, who guard the shrines, and the foxes to which baby metal are often associated. So we're going into battle here, but we're asking to be set free by some female magical agent to set me free from this suffering. And in the course of the video, we get two queen figures who appear on the board, right? We can't see their faces. There's a black queen and a white queen. The white queen is the one associated with Courtney LaPlante, and the black queen is associated with baby metal. And we're invoking them. So it's unclear, right, what we're fighting against and what the evil is. Let's just acknowledge that little Atarashi Gakko-esque head bob that we get from Su Metal there, which is very cool. Mini amaru koe erabareta no sa. So again, according to Capable Paramedics translation, it's too great an honor to have been chosen. So even with my voice or your cry, those pronouns again, we do not need to cling to the faint glimmer of past glory. It's such a great honor to have been chosen that we don't need to invoke the past. We just sort of get on with it, I guess. The conflict. Such a great honor to have been chosen. It's hard not to think of something like, the Hunger Games or something, to defend your community or something along those lines. It seems like there's some sort of battle taking place here which you have to qualify to take part in, I guess. But this is tricky. And this sense of the past, we do not need to cling to the faint glimmers of past glories. It feels like the kind of pronouncements made by ancient medieval warrior heroes, both Japanese and English and other traditions as well, saying, as we go into conflict, forget my reputation. I've done all these amazing things in the past, but none of that matters. Now we're just going to battle it out. The question, of course, is chosen, as Capable Paramedic says, chosen for what exactly? Maybe it's I have been chosen to support you. That doesn't seem to work in the context of the way that the chess match is set up as a battle between them. Or we've been chosen to be saved by the queen, which is possible. Or we've been chosen to do something else entirely, right? And again, I think that's sort of past glory and the sense of being selected from the community. I volunteer for tribute. May be invoked here, right? The sense that we're doing something maybe on the behalf of other people, that we're battling it out. I'm not sure. This is the trickiest part of the song, I think. So again, oh my queen, bewitches dazzlingly, prospers in eternity, and is proudly aloof, set me free from this suffering. And then the next stanza, and we get a slightly different melody line here. On her raised palm, in her hidden heart, fiercely bear the beat of salvation and burn it to the ground. The beat, the Japanese word is rizumu, which is a Japanized version of rhythm. So we're dealing with maybe the heartbeat, but also the beat of the music. This is very baby metal, of course, the recognition that this struggle, this battle is taking place musically. There's no pronouns here, but if we're addressing my queen, maybe it's in your raised palm and your hidden heart, fiercely bear the beat of salvation and burn it to the end. So there's this sense of some sort of apocalyptic struggle, but we're still asking to be freed from this suffering. And again, feels very medieval. It feels very contemptus mundi, that sense of the world as a source of troubles and hardships that we're trying to somehow get through and ultimately escape, whether that's through some sort of apocalyptic end of the world, something or other, or simply at the end of your own life, where we sort of then transition to another sphere of some kind, whichever religious system you want to invoke here. I think that the Christian iconography and Buddhist works together here, that sense of enduring the physical world, but not being taken in by its values in order to to get through, to shake off the suffering of conventional reality and transcend the world, maybe. And that's what we're asking this queen to do. And then we get the Courtney LaPlante's vocal section. I'll pause it there before we go into the chorus. The moment that she steps forward, we see some sort of anxiety on the part of the sort of demony, scary guy who's watching from the video, as if her participation in the song is unexpected and troubling. And she says, I'll twist my hands into a shape you'll never see, try to hide away my heart to a place you'll never reach. Buried in the deepest grave, but I swear I feel it beat, running from my past and bloody footsteps following me. To dance alone in suffering, keeping time with ghosts and queens, a twisted tongue between my teeth. I dance alone in suffering, now set me free. So both speakers, both combatants in the chess match are asking for the same thing, which is to be set free from suffering. And both seem to be invoking a sort of troubled past, right? Running from my past, bloody footsteps following me. Unlike Baby Metal's black figures on the chessboard, who are, of course, 3, the Courtney LaPlante figure is single. So to dance alone in suffering, keeping time with ghosts and queens, twisted tongue between my teeth, I dance alone in suffering. So part of her problem is the isolation. You know, I said before that this is clearly a kind of sequel to Distortion. It's also, I think, a sequel to Karate, but it feels very different from Karate. In Karate, it was about an external enemy, or a series of external enemies who got stronger, and the 3 figures of Baby Metal who are standing against them, who it's midway through the song, or a little late, so end of the second act of the song in movie terms, are defeated, but then band together, unite, find their strength, and are victorious at the end. This doesn't go there, but I do think that it's invoking something similar, and I think that it gets complicated because it's not clear who we're supposed to be fighting, right? That we have the Baby Metal and Spirit Box teams fighting against each other, but the clearly obvious real villain is the guy watching, right? Both the Baby Metal and Spirit Box vocalists are talking about their sort of haunted pasts and their desire to be set free from the suffering. So there's a sense in which they're fighting the wrong person. And I think that this is the way that I'm reading the song, ultimately. That the battle between them has been sort of engineered by this malevolent force who's keen to see them fight and destroy each other, potentially, maybe for his amusement or whatever. But in fact, their positions are actually quite similar, and they should be on the same side, which is a familiar thing in conflict, right? That often the things that make you fight with other people are the similarities, the things that you actually have in common. And if you could figure that out, if you can see where the two entities are coming from, then maybe you'd have less animosity towards each other. Particularly, I think, in this case, because one of the things that we get is this sense that whatever has brought us to this point, this past, whatever our past is, has created this animosity. And maybe it's mistaken, and that what we really want is to escape, to get out from under it. Well, let's see how it wraps up. So we come back to the main chorus, "Oh my queen, who bewitches dazzling, prospers in eternity, proudly aloof, set me free from this suffering." But at this point, the watching figure, apparently dissatisfied with the way the game is going, decides to break in, as if determined to fix the ending. And then what that ending looks like is, in chess terms, a stalemate, right? Where neither side can beat the other, or in this case, maybe neither side wants to actually beat the other. And we get this sort of Matrix-esque moment of the two fists holding the chess pieces and crushing them, destroying them, and rendering the whole thing moot. And the same lines about the raised palm, hidden heart, fiercely bearing the beat of salvation, burning it to the end, and set me free. So the question then is, how does this end? Is this a good ending? Is this a bad ending? And I'm not sure. We get the sort of the final images of the combatants are reduced to their queen or their single figures and left lying on the board. Both of them, there's no victor. A couple of ways to read it. One way would be to say that their freedom from suffering is when they stop fighting each other. And we do get that moment which echoes the karate video. We see, I think it's Moa kneeling down, and Sue holding Momoko's hand. And it is that sense of the three coming together to support each other, as in the karate video. Maybe. We don't get a clear offering of that same kind of connection with the White Queen, but maybe that's implied, and the collapse at the end is their escape. It's getting out of the fight and therefore shedding the suffering of constant struggle, maybe. Or, that's the positive reading. The negative reading is bad guy wins. Bad guy realizing that neither is going to kill the other, kills them both, because they didn't get to sort of come together in time to unite against a common enemy. Maybe. So that's one way of reading it. And I think in the context of like distortion and things, this is clearly a sort of fantasy battle of some sort. But I also think it's possible to read it in both a sort of meta-theatrical way and in a psychological inner sort of way as well. Stephen Funnytoss's excellent translation of one of their recent interviews, when he says, when they're talking about this, and it's also revealed that Momoko does some of the death growl. I'm not certain which parts. I was trying to figure out if she was doing the death growl response to Courtney in her section, but I'm not sure. But apparently Momoko's death growls are in there as well. Stephen says, Sue says, for me this song has a feeling of outer and inner worlds. The sound itself has a heavy dark atmosphere and there's a desire to break through, but something is holding you back. It's a struggle, which I think is really interesting, right? She goes on to say that she likes her own vocal in this because it feels like she's able to sort of to do what she does best, which is hitting those high, long, extended notes, because a lot of the heaviness and darkness is being provided by the Spirit Box vocal and by the instruments, which I think is a really good point. We get to, and one of the things I really love about the song is that we get to really hear Sue's voice unprocessed and clean and clear, and it's really, really great, powerful. But this thing about outer and inner worlds, I think is really interesting. And if you look at the terms that she uses, kono kyoku ni wa omote to ura no sekai mitaina. So omote, which Stephen is translating as inner, and ura, which he's translating as outer, might also be translated as front and back. And I think those two things go together. The inner and outer makes more sense when on the page, you know. But I think front and back also works because I think it has that very theatrical quality, right? The sense of being on stage, that's front. Backstage is different. That's where there's no persona there, right? When you're on stage, you're in character. Backstage is where you are yourself and where you feel all these other emotions and feelings. And of course, you know, it's unavoidable that a lot of the baby metal fan base constantly refers to Sue Metal as the queen, our queen. Is it possible that in some senses she's invoking herself, not in an arrogant way, but in the invocation as Suzuka Nakamoto, invoking the queen's presence to help her escape from her private issues and problems, right? In the way that the fan base may be being asked to use baby metal to transcend their own issues, sadness, frustrations, whatever, to help free us from those things in the way that music does, right? That's a real thing. In Aristotelian terms, the catharsis of art, which purges us of negative emotions, pity and fear and other things, right, which can be crippling in some ways. And so maybe she's invoking the same thing. She's asking for the same thing. She's asking for the artistic version of herself to somehow carry away, save her from all the negativity that comes from ordinary life, as opposed to simply being trapped in artificial struggles with other people. and looking for escape from those, from the world, from all that sort of stuff. So it's open-ended, I think, productively. I don't think it's incoherent, right? Sometimes I get frustrated with songs that I think can't be resolved. I don't think that's the issue here. I think that there's a lot of ambiguity, but I think that there are certain things that are fairly clear, and you're invited as an audience member to come up with the version that works best for you, which I think is a very Baby Metal impulse. I like that. And it's a good song. It's, you know, there's there's real melody here, there's real power. It's tight, it doesn't overstay its welcome. The song has a really compact quality, and I really like the way that it works. And we've got like great visuals, and as that interview says, dark, heavy instrumental, atmospherics. The only thing I'm torn on is finally whether I consider it an upbeat thing or a downbeat thing. Do we win or do we lose at the end? I'm not sure. The other song that it reminds me a little bit of, and this I think will be a surprise, is Rondo of Nightmare, Aku no Rondo, right? Where there's that sense that what the song encapsulates is this sort of nightmare moment from which there is no escape. And I hear it in those kind of minor tonalities, and the intensity of it, and the sense of being sort of surrounded and crowded out. So yeah, I don't think they escape. I don't think they win. This is not karate. This is something where maybe we're sort of ground down by the world and malevolence, and we don't sort of figure it out in time to escape, to get out. And maybe if we joined forces, we would do better. I don't know. Possibly. Anyway. All right, well, as usual, I've been talking too long, so I'm going to stop. As ever, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my books. The new Hideki Smith novel has just come out. Hideki Smith and the Omukade in English. The Japanese edition of Book One will be out very, very soon, and I'll have a lot more to say about that. So please consider checking those out. And check out my Patreon page. My patrons get to see these videos a little bit before everybody else, and their support helps me to justify continuing to make them. So if you think there's anything of value here, please check that out too. I have a little Dashery store, which you can check out too. All the links for all this will be in the description for this video. And that's it for now. Thanks. Talk to you soon.